Good morning and welcome back to the final Workforce Wednesday of the school year and the Kentucky Chamber Workforce Center's Best to Business virtual program series. My name is Harper Smith and I help direct the Best to Business program at the Kentucky Chamber Workforce Center. Before we begin, I would like to thank our sponsors in this effort, Kentucky SHRM and AT&T, for their investment in helping to bring classrooms to careers through our virtual program series for this school year. I also want to thank the team at Ulimi for their support through this virtual event platform. As usual, all of our resources and videos are housed on our website, kychamber.com/bestttobusiness. This session is also being recorded as well as live streamed to Facebook and YouTube and will be available to rewatch and share afterwards. So whether you are one of the over 85 students we have tuning in live with us on May 12th, or you're watching at a later date, thank you so much for tuning in and we hope you all learned something new. Today is the sixth of a six-part series with Horse Country to spotlight critical positions within the equine industry. It's also the final session of the 2020-21 school year. Today, we will be hearing from the Hagyard Equine Medical Institute. Our Talent Pipeline Management Equine Project Manager, Lori Mays, will be watching in the chat for any questions and will lead a time at the end for Q&A. I will kick it over now to Jamie O'Flynn from Hagyard.
Good morning, everybody. Harper, just let me know, as you know, I'm new with this virtual platform, and so hopefully everything is, it looks like I can see myself and the presentation there, so we'll get rolling. But my name's Jamie O'Flynn, and I work here at Hagyard Equine Medical Institute. My primary responsibility here at Hagyard is the student program. So we have veterinary interns that come and visit the clinic. We have students that are in vet school that will come and visit, and we even have students that are just starting out their college career that may come and experience different internship type opportunities. So I'm going to give you a little bit of an overview of the clinic in general, a little bit of history about who we are here at Hagyard, and then I'm going to jump into some of the career specific information for anybody who might be interested in potentially becoming a veterinarian or a veterinary technician, or the many job opportunities that are in the equine veterinary medical field. Okay, so let's get this on screen sharing mode. And so just want to make sure, Harper, can you see that in the proper presentation format? I cannot see myself, so I just want to make sure everybody's able to see that okay.
We see the outline kind of version, not the presentation mode.
So you're not seeing presentation mode. Okay. It looks like in that mode, let me see, we can, let me see if it's the way I shared it. Hold on one second. Let me try to share it again and see if it'll, let's pick. Okay, well that might just be the mode that we're going to have to see it in then. That works for me. If it works for you all,
works fine.
Okay. All right. So, all right. A little bit about Hagyard Equine Medical Institute. We're a very old clinic. So our clinic was actually started in 1876. So we'll take a step back in history. So in 1875, there was a veterinarian named E.T. Hagyard, and he was summoned from Canada to Winchester, Kentucky to look at a shorthorn bull named the 8th Duke of Geneva. The bull at that time was worth 10,000 gold coins. So it was a very valuable shorthorn bull. So he realized, okay, there's a great need for veterinary care in central Kentucky. So Dr. Hagyard moved here and started his clinic. So that takes us to 1876. Dr. Hagyard hangs his shingle on the door, and we now have Hagyard as a veterinary clinic, Dr. Hagyard here in central Kentucky as a veterinarian. But point in that long story is that we, Hagyard, have been in business for many years. So we've actually been in business for 145 years. And if any of you are Kentucky Derby fans, you may have noticed from the last Derby, the first Kentucky Derby was run 146 years ago. So our clinic was started 1 year after the first Kentucky Derby was run. And I think that's a neat point in history because it kind of shows you how things were changing over the course of history. Horses were going from, maybe a primary mode of transportation and farming to more of a recreational type hobby, which was racing. And so one of the pictures here that you're seeing in the slide, in the top right corner, you can see the Hagyard. That was one of our first buildings in downtown Lexington. You can see that Hagyard and Sons sign on the side there. But what I love about that picture is you have a horse and then you also have an automobile. And so there again, that's a great representation that horses, they were no longer the primary mode of transportation. And so things were really changing. And so we've been, as a vet clinic, been around for a lot of exciting points in history, and that is one of them. And being around in business for 145 years, we've seen a lot of neat horses over the period of time. Man of War, whom, if you've ever been over to the Kentucky Horse Park, I point this way because it's right across the road from us. If you've ever been to the Kentucky Horse Park, they have a beautiful bronze statue of Man of War, and he was a great racehorse and sire over the course of history. And so our veterinarians were lucky enough to work on him all the way up to current day. Many of our clients are, have amazing racehorses and horses that they're breeding and racing and producing. And so we've been around to see a lot of neat horses over the period of time. And then just a lot of neat points in history. I love that old picture of all the veterinarians kind of gathering around there. And there were lots of major historical events in history that occurred that our veterinarians were around for. So I think that's really neat. All right, what does Hagyard look like today? So the campus, it looks a lot different. This aerial photo here, if you look at all the green space between the interstates there, so you see the two main roads, all that green space in the middle there, or most of that green space is the Hagyard campus. So today we've gone away from the old brick building way back in the day downtown to now we're out by the Kentucky Horse Park. So we're located right across the road from the Kentucky Horse Park, and we have a lot of green space. So our campus is 110 acres. So we have a lot of land and paddocks that we can use. And then we have our referral hospital here at this location. So we have, we're going to talk about all these divisions, but we have our Davidson Surgery Center, Mcgee Medicine Center, we have a Hagyard Sport Horse Facility, and the Mcgee Fertility Center. So that's our referral hospital. That's over 100,000 square feet of operating space or building space here that we can use to accommodate and work with patients. All right, so we were talking a little bit about the divisions of Hagyard. And so, like we talked about, there are many divisions. Our largest division is our ambulatory division, and we're going to go into a little bit more detail there, and I have some fun pictures that go along with that. Same with the Davidson Surgery Center, Mcgee Medicine Center, Mcgee Fertility Center, and then we are also fortunate enough here at Hagyard to have a clinical microbiology and PCR laboratory on site. We have our own pharmacy, and then we also have a division that deals with exporting horses, which is called ETA. So we're going to talk a little bit more about all of those areas. All right, so our field care division is our largest division here at Hagyard. So we have over 35 doctors. In general, here at Hagyard, we have about 55 doctors on staff, but 35 of them, the majority of them, are what we call ambulatory doctors or field care doctors. And they're out on all of those beautiful farms here in central Kentucky providing services to our clients' horses. So there's the service list over here to the right. They do all of the things that you would think any veterinarian would do, just general health and wellness of the horse. So making sure, your horse has its vaccinations and deworming, and overall health and condition is good. We do some really innovative things like acupuncture. We deal with a lot of horses that are breeding horses, so we are involved in that piece of it. Chiropractic, consulting services, dentistry, just like with humans. Dentistry is a piece that is very involved with horses. It's something we do. We have export work, fertility services, herd health, laser therapy, you name it, all sorts of services that we can provide our clients. So back to the 35 doctors that we talked about that are ambulatory focused, we have 3 of them that are what we call diplomats of the American College of Theriogenology, which means they're specialists in reproduction. So They went to school to do their doctorate of veterinary medicine, and then they went on for additional training upwards of 3 years or more to become a specialist in theriogenology, which there again is specialization in reproduction. And then we also have one doctor in our ambulatory division that is a diplomat of the American College of Veterinary Internal Medicine. So same situation, went on to do additional training to become a specialist in veterinary internal medicine. So a lot of specialization in that field. I love this picture that's in the slide here. This is of Dr. Rhonda Rathgaber, and she's doing acupuncture on a horse. And she's been practicing that for many years. We have many veterinarians at the clinic now that practice acupuncture. But it's actually, you can see the little smoke coming off there near the horse's hind end. And so there are little needles that they place in acupuncture points on the horse's back. And then there's a little herb that they put on those needles that they light. They light on fire. And that sends heat down the needle, which helps with the process of healing the horse in a sense. And so I love that picture. I think it's a really, really neat one of Dr. Rathgaber. Here's just another collage of pictures kind of representing the ambulatory division. There again, you can see Dr. Rathgaber's picture. Ambulatory doctors spend a lot of time on the road in their trucks. So we have a great picture of Dr. Martinez there in his truck on the phone, kind of multitasking while he's in the clinic, dropping things off. Another great picture of Dr. Rathgaber down there taking an x-ray of a horse. So we do a lot of x-ray services, offer that in the field and at the clinic. And then we do a lot of ultrasounding. So a great picture of one of our retired doctors, Dr. Fishback, palpating, getting ready, it looks like actually to ultrasound a mare there. All right. Here at Hagyard, we also have an ambulance. So we have an equine ambulance. It probably to you looks like a regular horse trailer, but what is unique about the ambulance is the floor is on hydraulics, so you can actually drop it down to the ground, which is great when you're trying to get a horse that may have a medical condition to be able to get into the trailer. So if they need to walk or step into the trailer, it's down at ground level, so they don't have to step up. In a lot of situations, so the horses are not able to stand and walk, so we're actually putting them on what it actually looks like a big green toboggan sled. So you sedate them, lay them on this big green toboggan sled, and then we hoist them into the horse trailer to bring them back here to the clinic to be able to care for them. So we have a technician that will oversee them and monitor them while they're transporting back here to the clinic. So neat service to be able to provide. We have veterinarians and technicians that are trained in large animal emergency response. They're available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and we can respond to emergencies as needed. We've also trained local firefighters and police officers in large animal emergency response techniques. So if we have an accident, that may involve many horses, we have a whole large team of people trained to be able to respond and care for those horses. All right, the Davidson Surgery Center, and I feel like students always get excited about surgery. I think it's one of those things that you just kind of get excited that, they can cut something open and get in there and correct it and heal it, suture it back up, and maybe the horse will be like new. So it's definitely a neat area of the clinic. We have 7 surgeons. They average around 6,000 surgical procedures a year, that's a lot of surgeries to perform in a year. And we have a lot of horses here in Central Kentucky. So there are a lot of thoroughbreds, a lot of breeding farms. And so that is one of the key factors in why we have so many surgical procedures is we have so many horses here in Kentucky. We offer different options like digital x-ray, nuclear scintigraphy, if we need to provide those services to a horse. And then we do all sorts of types of surgeries. We do abdominal surgeries, arthroscopic surgeries, we do emergency care, lameness evaluations, obstetrics, orthopedic surgeries are something that we do a lot of here, reproductive surgeries, you name it. The surgeons here at Hagyard are able to provide surgical procedures to horses that are needed. There's some fun pictures here within the surgical suites, which are always a neat area to see. And hopefully as COVID restrictions start to lift, we'll be able to offer more public tours. And if anybody's interested in coming and seeing the clinic, you get to a little peek into the Davidson Surgery Center. But we have the picture there on the left, the bigger picture there, Dr. Rogertson doing an arthroscopic surgery, which is pretty neat. There's a little camera on the end of the tube, and he's looking at a monitor screen to to see what he's looking at and maybe what he's going in to find, like a little chip that needs removed or what have you. And then some good pictures over there to the right of Dr. Hunt doing an orthopedic surgery, a less invasive orthopedic surgery. So some really, really neat pictures within surgery. Also within surgery, we have an MRI. So just like where humans can go and have an MRI scan done, we can do the same thing with horses. And so it's a great picture here of a horse that we have that is actually having its front legs scanned. They might be concerned about a lameness issue. And so they are choosing to do an MRI to see if they can kind of figure out, what's going wrong, what's causing the issue. But this is a 1.5 Tesla MRI. It's the largest diameter bore on the market. So the circular component where you can fit the body part into, it's the largest circular component that they make. We like that for horses because they're obviously quite large and you need to be able to fit whatever body part you're scanning into the MRI. So we do a lot of legs, which they're again a great example of the picture here. But my favorite story with the MRI is that we have had Dr. Mcgee, whom passed away a few years ago, but Dr. Mcgee was in his 80s and he came out to the clinic and we were showing him the MRI and he said, we pulled up some images of some horse legs that we had scanned so he could see all the tendons and everything. And he just looks at the images and he laughs and he goes, gosh, it just takes all the guesswork out of veterinary medicine. So it was fun for him to have been around for so many years and practicing veterinary medicine to then see the newest technology that was being used. So I think MRI is a very nice tool to have here at a veterinary clinic. And we're just fortunate in Central Kentucky. We have a lot of horses and we're able to have some really state-of-the-art equipment like the MRI. All right, the Mcgee Medicine Center. So this is a really fun picture here of a foal that was born via C-section, and that is the internal medicine team that is there to receive the foal, make sure everything's okay with it before they take it up for observation at the Mcgee Medicine Center. So they've received it there at the surgical center and are getting ready to take it to the Mcgee Medicine Center. So we have 6 doctors that work at the Mcgee Medicine Center, all of which are boarded in internal medicine. So they're diplomats of the American College of Veterinary Internal Medicine. And as we mentioned, that means they've got their doctorate in veterinary medicine, and then they've gone on for at least 3 years of additional training to become a boarded specialist in internal medicine. We also have a doctor that is boarded in emergency and critical care, large animal emergency and critical care. It's a mouthful. And so she's one of about 50 in the world without board certification. So it's a pretty impressive one to have. And so you might be thinking, okay, well, this is a lot of specialization in one area. This is 6 doctors. It's actually 7. We have a boarded ophthalmologist up there as well, but 7 doctors with board certifications, some with multiple board certifications. And you might think, why do you need such a large group of specialists in one area? And that's because the cases that come to the Mcgee Medicine Center, we really consider critical care patients. So we are lucky to be in an area here in Central Kentucky where the highest level of care is offered on all these beautiful farms. And they can do basic veterinary care, and they have technicians that can help treat horses on the farm, and they can really provide that high level of care on the farm. But when those horses aren't getting better, they refer them here to the Mcgee Medicine Center. So you are getting the horses that are very sick, and you need a very strong group of specialists to be able to help and care for those horses. So with all of that said, they average about 2,500 cases a year at the Mcgee Medicine Center, and we see about 300 neonatal foals, I think more towards 400 neonatal foals this last season at the Mcgee Medicine Center. So definitely get to see the internal medicine cases cared for at the highest level. All right, the Mcgee Fertility Center. So we have 3 doctors that are boarded in theriogenology. So they're, again, that specialization in reproduction. And they're going to work with cases that need special reproductive plans. So we can do all sorts of neat things on the very scientific side to be able to help horses get in foal and have foals, or help stallions that may be having breeding issues. So we can do all sorts of things to really help and provide services to those horses with reproductive issues. All right, we have a pharmacy. What's neat about our pharmacy is it is for, we are an equine veterinary clinic, but we provide pharmaceutical products for all different species of animal. And so we have a retail license, which means any veterinarian can call in a prescription here for their client, and their client can come pick up their prescription from our pharmacy. And then we can also ship pharmaceuticals to 40 plus states in the United States. So there's 40 plus states where we can send those pharmaceutical products to. And then we also do our own compounding in-house, which means we can make pharmaceutical products that aren't readily available on the market for patients. So maybe we're giving an oral medication to a horse, and we want to make it apple flavored or vanilla flavored to make it a little bit easier for that horse to want to take its medication. So we can do neat things like that in our pharmacy. All right. Two last slides before we do finish up the overview of the clinic, and then we're going to jump into, like I said, kind of career path and opportunities to work within the equine veterinary field. But one area that I think is really neat to mention, especially for young students in the interested in getting in the horse industry, is all the international opportunities to work with horses. If you want to travel anywhere around the world, there are opportunities to work with horses. So how that segues in is we have a division called Hagyard ETA, which is a fun name. It stands for efficient, timely, and accurate, or it could also be a play on words of expected time of arrival. And so with that being said, this division of Hagyard deals with 92% of Central Kentucky's exporting work. So whether you want to send your horse to Ohio or you want to send your horse to France, they're going to be experts on how do you get your horse to Ohio or out of the country to France. So we at Hagyard do not own the planes that ship the horses, but we work with export companies that will have planes that will ship the horses that need to go to international areas where you're going to fly the horses to. So there's kind of a fun picture of a plane on the tarmac at one of the airports, and some of the horse vans that they're using to load the horses onto the planes. And then this is just a fun picture there, again, just showing all of the places in the world. This slide in particular focuses on the racehorse perspective, but there are sport horses all over the world as well. And so you could really see that wherever you want to travel, there's probably an opportunity to go there and work with horses, which I think is exciting there again for young people. All right, with all of that said, hopefully I've got you very excited about veterinary medicine, and there are a lot of career opportunities in the veterinary medicine field. And so this slide here is a great representation of different websites you can go to find out more information. If you in particular are really interested in the equine side of veterinary medicine, AAEP, the American Association of Equine Practitioners, has a great link on there about discovering your best career path and having a passion for horses, and how do you go down that path? How do you become a veterinarian? And then the American Veterinary Medical Association, or the AVMA, that's going to have information about any field of veterinary medicine that you may want to go into. So whether you want to do small animal, large animal, they're going to be a great resource for that. They have a great list of veterinary schools. They also have good information about veterinary technician programs. So definitely AAP and avma.org are two good places to look for more information. And then there's also the Association of American Veterinary Medical Colleges, which another great resource if you're looking at what different colleges are out there and programs that you could consider. And then also the United States Department of Agriculture has good information as well. So there's some resources for you if you're interested in that avenue. And then I think another fun resource to mention at Hagyard is we have an internship program. So not only do we have internship programs for veterinarians, but we also have internship programs for undergraduate students. So you've made it through high school, you've got into college now, and so you're in your first couple years of college and you're thinking, you know what, I'd like to do a 6-month hands-on internship because I'm thinking maybe I want to be a veterinarian or a technician or pharmaceutical sales, or go into some avenue in the equine veterinary medical field. So this is a few slides just about our internship program. We have a great hands-on internship. It's 6 months from January through June, and we offer programs at the Mcgee Medicine Center and Davidson Surgery Center, and then we also have an ambulatory program. And here's some fun slides. there is a picture of one of our undergraduate interns, and they had a foaling mare. And so she was able to participate with that. And then we have a great picture there at the Davidson Surgery Center where we have a horse being treated with fluids, and the veterinary assistant intern being able to assist with changing fluid bags and caring for that horse. So some great pictures there. Fun things to know about our internship. It does include an extensive week-long orientation where you're learning you have a training manual, you're learning about infectious disease protocols, safety training, horse handling safety, you'll learn about medications, procedures, and then we typically go on a thoroughbred farm tour. So a lot of fun stuff there. As a medicine and surgery veterinary assistant, you do things like help maintain accurate patient records, maintain a clean and sanitary barn office, assist with veterinary procedures, and help provide hay, feed, and water to horses. You also do things like monitor patients' vital signs and progress and administer medications and treatments. This is a great picture of two of our veterinary assistant interns, and they have a foal there that wasn't able to stand and nurse on its own, so they're able to help support it in doing that. And then another unique piece of the veterinary assistant internship is that you get to work in the neonatal intensive care unit. So you're getting to see that intensive supportive care for neonatal patients at the highest level. And you're going to learn things like basic CPR and emergency procedures. So this is a little baby that, a little foal that's not able to stand and nurse on its own. So it's getting medication and treatment to help support it. At surgery, this is a lot of information on a slide, but a neat picture there of an x-ray with a screw that they've placed in there to help with an angular limb deformity issue. But it's a lot of handling the horses, getting them up to surgery. You may be holding them for a standing surgical procedure. After their surgeries, bringing them back to the barn, helping with treatment of the horses, helping get them home at the end of the day. So a lot of good experience in the surgical type setting with the horses. Medicine and surgery internships, they are paid internships as well as the ambulatory program. Medicine has rotating shifts, so you get to see day, evening, and night. So you get to spend 6 months rotating between all of those different shifts and seeing different things. Same with surgery, doing a rotation between those different shifts and getting to see different emergencies that occur at different times of the day. And here's a great picture for the ambulatory program. You're getting to see some of our veterinary assistants out with our ambulatory doctors, and they're getting to do different things. Like, it's a great picture there of Patrick drawing a blood on a horse. You can see Hannah's drawing up some medication for her veterinarian. We have another assistant that's helping hold the tail while her doctor's palpating. So all sorts of neat, fun, hands-on opportunities out in the ambulatory division on all the beautiful farms here in Central Kentucky. So as you would expect, you're providing support and assistance to a field veterinarian. You're holding and restraining patients for examination, helping maintain a clean workspace, the doctor's vehicle, and helping with medical records, billing, client communication, all of those good things. And then restocking the doctor's vehicle, maybe acting as a relief driver. Here's a great picture of Dr. Luke Fallon. So a fun story about Dr. Fallon, he's actually a 5th generation family member of the original founder of Hagyard. So Dr. E.T. Hagyard, so Dr. Luke Fallon's his 5th generation family member. What's really unique about the clinic is we've always had a Hagyard family member working at the clinic. So before Dr. Luke Fallon, we had Dr. Ed Fallon as our 4th generation, and so on up to the original founder. So that's a fun story about Dr. Fallon. But what he's doing there is he's lavaging a mare's uterus, and so his assistant there is helping him hold that fluid that they're going to discard. So interesting procedure. We do a lot of continuing education in our internship. We do placenta evaluations. We'll talk about x-rays. Pre-COVID and hopefully post-COVID, as time goes on, we get together in groups and talk about different kind of patients that we're seeing in-house at the clinic. Application process, and all of this information is on the Hagyard website, but our application deadline is October 1st. There again, you need to be an undergraduate, so typically in your sophomore, junior, or senior year, or you can even be a graduate of an undergraduate program. But easy to apply. You just email me a letter of intent and your resume, and then we will organize virtual interviews. So we do interview candidates to make sure that they're the best fit for the internship that we're offering. This is just a fun slide of previous veterinary assistant interns that have gone to veterinary school. And I have to say, even today, I need to update it because there are so many more that have been accepted into vet school. But you can see there's a great plethora of students who have decided to go to vet school. Over the years, we've been doing our internship since 2008. We've had more than 300 students complete the internship program. And so it's not just for the individual that wants to go to vet school, but it could be for an individual that wants to be a technician, or like I said, pharmaceutical sales or equine insurance. There's so many avenues that it can help support. So I know with our presentations, I think if I remember correctly from Harper, we're to keep them at about 30 minutes. And so I'm almost ready to wrap up here. But I think no better than hearing it from an intern's mouth, what an experience is like at Hagyard to be able to come here and work. And so I'll read Reagan's. I won't read both of them here, but I'll read Reagan's to you because I think it's pretty special. They're both very special. But Reagan was an undergraduate intern last year. And so here's what she wrote on her post at her last day. She said, "Where do I even start? This opportunity at Hagyard has been one of the most amazing and one of the hardest things I've ever done. There's no other place that pushes and teaches you like this one. As I left my last shift this morning, a feeling of reward overwhelmed me, and I knew at that moment this was also worth it. It was bittersweet. It was a bittersweet moment, but it made me so excited for what's to come in the future. I can't thank the people of Hagyard for not only pushing me, but making this place feel like home. Now on to finishing undergrad and hopefully vet school. Until next time." So great bit of information about the experience and opportunity from somebody who has completed it. And with that said, that's my last slide. So I will stop sharing here, and then we can open it up to questions.
Yeah, thanks, Jamie. That was fantastic. And I've been to your facility many times, but it never ceases to amaze me how intricate your facility is and how many moving parts there are and all the neat things that you guys do. So thank you for sharing that. It's fantastic. I do have a couple of questions that I have, and then hopefully some others will pop up in the chat if anybody has any questions. You talk a lot about the divisions that you have, and it's very similar sounding to a human hospital. Can you talk about kind of some of the similarities and then obviously the differences? A lot of our attendees today may have never been to a large equine hospital or veterinary hospital in general. So it's kind of interesting if you can kind of compare and contrast how similar it is to the human side of things.
That's a great question, Lori, and it's so similar. I think especially a big veterinary clinic like Hagyard, where we do have very distinct divisions, is very much like the human perspective, where you would go to a human hospital and they might have a maternity ward. We have the same thing here at Hagyard. It would be our high-risk pregnancy wing, but so very similar to a maternity ward at a veterinary or at a human hospital. And then same with human hospitals, how they have their surgical center divided out. In terms of ambulatory, that probably would be way back in the day when human doctors maybe made house calls. I don't think that's done so much anymore, but so the ambulatory might be the one that maybe doesn't still translate all that well. But as people I'm sure can imagine, horses are quite large, so it's easier for us to go to them than it is for them to always bring them into us. So that might be the slight difference. But yes, they are very similar. We divide them up by different areas. We have doctors that are specialists in those areas, very similar to the human field. And so it is pretty amazing in that regard. Where are things that are a lot different? The ambulatory is, like I said, probably a lot different in that human doctors probably don't make a lot of home house calls these days, and we do a lot of that. But there are very many similarities, even in terms of the neonatal foals that we see and the nursing care that they get, very much like a human preemie ward, where you have to think about things from a human hospital perspective. They have limited people in and out of there. They try to keep it quiet. They have temperature controlled or little incubators for the premature babies. All of those things are very similar on the equine side. So we have a neonatal intensive care unit. We try to really keep the number of people in there limited, and we keep it very quiet and calm. We have, instead of incubators, because neonatal foals a small one might weigh 60, 70 pounds, a big one might be 150, 160. We don't have incubators quite that big, so we have heat lamps that we put them on to help with their body temperature. So unlike human preemies that would be in an incubator, we have lights that help keep our neonatal babies or our foals warm. So that's kind of neat in terms of the care. I feel like is very similar between a neonatal intensive care unit on the human side and the equine side.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Coming from an area of the country that was not heavy in horses, and we had one large animal veterinarian for our county. When I moved to Kentucky, 12 years ago, it was so impressive to see clinics like yours, and it honestly blew my mind. So it's really neat to see, the changes even since I've been here, but the vast size and scope of your facility is really impressive. So kind of looking at that too from a workforce perspective, what does the schedules look like for, and I know it's different for each position. Oftentimes you see in a human hospital, there's different shifts and people that have specialties work in different areas of the hospital that may have different working hours and things like that. How does that work for your staff? Obviously you're staffed 24/7, around the clock and around the year on holidays and things like that. But what does that kind of look like if someone were to come work at your facility? What does their normal day look like hour-wise?
That's a great question. And there's so many different divisions of Hagyard and different positions that people hold that the work schedules vary greatly. But nonetheless, you're right. Just like in the human world, we're an emergency veterinary clinic. So we're available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, which means we have staff here at all hours of the day. So schedules can look different depending on the type of role people are in. So if somebody is a veterinarian that's an ambulatory doctor, this time of year is a very busy time of year for them. So they are, probably going to be working 7 days a week, probably have really early morning starts and finish pretty late in the day because this is the time of year where we have horses that are being bred and mares that are foaling. And so it's a very busy time of year. Whereas if you might stop by to see them in October, they might have a few hours of work in the morning and their day might look a little bit different. So the ambulatory doctors, depending on the department they work in, can look a lot different. With somewhere like the Mcgee Medicine Center and a veterinarian that's an internal medicine specialist, they'll have days that they're on call. So, they might have a whole day and evening that they'll be here at the clinic. Whereas if you have a technician, depending on the area they work in, particularly at the Mcgee Medicine Center, we'll say there are 3 different shifts. So they work a typical 8-hour day, and it could be a day, evening, or night shift. So typically you're on that shift. So if you work days, Monday through Friday, that's your shift. Maybe you work evenings, Thursday to Monday. So there's a variety of different shifts, but there's always people here because we always have patients here, which means we always need coverage. So very similar to a human hospital, but slightly different just in the different areas of Hagyard, depending on what your role is and what you do.
What I think the neat thing about the equine industry too is, like you said, that it can be somewhat seasonal depending on what's happening in the industry, and that you're always busy, but sometimes they're a little more busy than others. But it's interesting that there's kind of a place for everybody. If you prefer working nights or evenings and you have other responsibilities during the day, I'm sure you can find a place to fit people in if they have a desire to work for you. So that's great. Can you talk a little bit about too, you touched on the veterinarians and the vet assistants and things like that. What are some other positions that you guys have at your hospital that people may not know about if they're not familiar with the equine industry?
That's another great question. So I think one of the neat areas to mention, there are many neat areas to mention, but in particular is the clinical microbiology and PCR laboratory. I think a lot of times students don't necessarily think of that specific area when they're going to school. And there are great programs to train to become, I think they have licensed and certified laboratory technicians. So there's training specific to what they do in that area. But we have a very large clinical microbiology laboratory. At this time of year, I think that it's not uncommon for them to process between 400 to 800 samples a day. And that's just equine patients. And so I think the laboratory is a really neat area to consider, and they have extended hours in the breeding season and various work schedules. And they're 7 days a week. So laboratory is definitely a neat area to think about. And then pharmaceuticals is another area I don't know that people always think about from an equine veterinary perspective, but we have a pharmacy. There are many veterinary and equine specific pharmacies out there. So there's lots of opportunity if you like the chemistry side of things and pharmaceuticals, whether you want to be a pharmacist or you want to be a pharmacy technician or you name it, there's lots of opportunity there. And then I think also just in, the fun things like marketing and recruiting and social media and all of those, those are all job opportunities too that are within, a veterinary clinic setting. Some people wear many hats, like a smaller clinic, you might do the social media and the billing and maybe help do the pharmacy order prep. Whereas at a big clinic like ours, we have the different divisions. So kind of break things out.
So that's a great segue. You've talked a lot about other positions at the hospital, but tell us a little bit about your background. You have a very unique job within the hospital as well. Tell us about your background and how you got to where you are and what a day looks like for you in your position.
Absolutely. So I have been at Hagyard for 18 years. So I've been here a while. And my position when I started here, there wasn't necessarily one person that dealt with student programs. We had students that would visit and interns that would come and complete internships. So we didn't have one individual that focused on that area. So many moons ago, when I came on board, they said, you know what, now is a good time. There was a lot going on in the equine industry and getting young students interested in this career path that they felt like having one person oversee it would be beneficial. So I came on board and we really started developing different types of programs. So surgery internships, we already had kind of in place enrolling, and then we had field care interns that were happening and we were offering more of those. And we had short-term visitors that would come for shadowing opportunities. And then we started our undergraduate internship. So all of those things started to develop, and I was lucky enough to be involved with that. And I always said to myself, I think student programs are the best. I still say that to myself. I think student programs are the best because I'm dealing with all the people coming in that are really excited about their careers and futures. And I feel lucky to be in a seat where I can kind of help direct them to programs that might work well with their interests. So I am originally, though, from the Northwest. So I'm a fourth generation Idahoan, and I came to Kentucky 21 years ago, and I completed an internship on a commercial thoroughbred farm called the Kentucky Equine Management Internship. So I actually came to Kentucky for an internship myself, and then fell in love with the area so much that I moved here, and then was lucky enough to get hired on at Hagyard a few years later, and have been here ever since. But it's been exciting to see things grow from very small number of students that would visit to now, if you take a typical day, not COVID, outside of COVID, I always have to add that because we have less people visiting because of COVID right now. But if it was not a COVID year, we would have a typical day in March or April. We might have more than 75 students on rotation at the clinic in some form of an educational capacity. So we definitely have a lot of students that visit. But my typical day-to-day is probably less exciting than the veterinarians in that I have a pretty normal day and work schedule. I'm typically Monday through Friday, unless we have some events and things like that come up on Saturday and Sunday where I do some recruiting and talking to students, but just making sure students get here, they get started, they meet the people they need to meet so that they know, where they can help and be involved. For long-term students, we might be doing evaluations or meeting with them about scheduling or on-call rotation schedules, day-to-day scheduling. So none of it sounds as glamorous as it is, but I think it's very exciting because I'm designing schedules that ultimately help people get opportunities to learn and grow and help them figure out what path they want to go down long term.
And I'm sure your network is vast, working with all these different individuals in the universities and different schools that they come from, and then sending them out kind of the other side to continue on in their careers is exciting. So with that being said, a lot of the attendees today are high school level in age. What kind of opportunities do you guys have at Hagyard's for students of that age? And also coupled with, if there's somebody who really doesn't have a background in equine medicine or a veterinary medicine in any way, but they have an interest in the field, how do they get started?
Great question. So I think high school is always one of those critical times where everybody's telling you you need to get out and get shadowing and get experience. And yet it can be hard to do because there are so many vet clinics and so many people that want to visit in so many different capacities that you're kind of trying to find the right opportunity to get experience. And so I think the reason I spoke so much about our veterinary assistant internship program is because right now, we do not have a lot of programs in place for high school students. I think even so, there are different programs at the high school level where you can get equine experience and get some good general horse husbandry experience. So I think that's probably the key, maybe when you're at that point in your career, when you're in high school, if you want to go into the horse side of things, getting out there and just getting comfortable around a horse, working around large animals in general. And if you're on the small animal side, there again, I guess getting comfortable with, different small animals and the species and so forth. I think do your research. I think when you're in high school, doing a lot of research. So looking at those websites I recommended and seeing like, okay, what are they recommending you do in terms of, planning out your career path? Because really then once you get to college, that's when I find there are a lot of opportunities for you to get experience. And the reason we do a 6-month hands-on internship that's paid is because we think it's one of the most valuable ways to gain experience. Coming in and shadowing can be good, but you're really just standing back and watching. You're not getting hands-on. And really an internship that'll set you up well for veterinary school is one where you can get some hands-on experience. So that's why we really like the model of promoting. Once you get into undergrad, consider a 6-month internship, come and do an internship like ours and get that good hands-on experience that will then help set you up well for vet school. So we really like that model. I think universities now really like that model as well because they're really encouraging 6-month internships. We find that with a lot of programs these days. But there are definitely some cool opportunities out there. There are some different vet schools that offer like summer kind of learn programs where you can experience a little bit about like veterinary medicine in general. I don't think it's equine specific. I think I've heard of Mississippi State has offered one in the past, which sounded pretty neat. And I think the USDA, I'll have to look it up and I can definitely send some information out, but they had a summer program as well for students that were kind of interested in the veterinary career path. But I think in high school, don't fret too much about trying to get into a vet clinic and shadowing, just kind of work on your general skill set of understanding and knowing how to work around animals. Once you get into college, then you can really kind of start figuring out, what kind of internship experience do I need? Are there shadowing opportunities that might work well? So yeah, that would be my thoughts.
Awesome. And as we kind of wrap up, I'm going to put you on the spot and ask for a unique fact about Hagyards. You gave some really neat history, which I had no idea that Hagyards was started by a veterinarian coming down to look at a bull. So that was new to me. But do you have any other unique fact that people may not know about your clinic?
Oh boy, a unique fact. I feel like our presentation is fact heavy, so I probably gave you all my.
You did give some really cool stuff.
The fact that we have a 5th generation family member of the original founder is probably, but I mentioned that, so that's probably one of the most unique ones.
What's one of the most unique breeds you've seen at Hagyards?
Oh my gosh.
You obviously see a lot of thoroughbreds and sport horses and things. Have you ever seen like a zebra or anything cool?
Yeah, absolutely. So primarily we're equine, but on an occasion we've seen zebras. We've also seen camels and goats. On an odd occasion you have a goat that's a lifelong companion of a horse that might need something fixed. And so we have seen a goat on occasion. But yeah, we've definitely seen some variety. We predominantly see thoroughbreds, which is just the breed in our area. But we also see a lot of, draft horses and sport horses and you name it. Mini horses. We had 2 mini donkeys one year that had to come in for treatment, and they were just about the cutest things ever. So yeah, we do see some variety on occasion.
And those are always the favorites at the hospital. I'm sure they have a fan club. I'm sure when they're there.
So cute.
Well, I appreciate it. That's all the questions that I have. So Harper, I'm going to turn it back over to you. And Jamie, thank you so much for coming on and letting us kind of come into your world at the clinic and with all the information you provided.
Great. Well, thank you all for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jamie and Lori. That was a really great session. I know I learned a lot. So thank you both so much. And that wraps up our 2020-2021 school year of Bus to Business virtual program. So please be on the lookout this summer and early next school year for what we have in store for our programming. So thank you all for participating today and in the past this school year. We hope you enjoyed it and learned something new. Thanks so much.